This is, as you can see, a very special day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first official episode of the Kitchen Sink podcast. This podcast is going to be a little different than some of the other podcasts I've done back in the past. This podcast is going to focus on mainly people's journey through filmmaking. I'm going to do one of these a month, and every episode I'm going to have a guest, be it one of my friends, or I'm going to reach out to people, try and get some people, to be on this podcast. But basically, it's about people's journey through filmmaking and the ups and downs of what that's like, and how hard that is for certain people to get in the industry and all that. So, whereas my last podcast, Let's All Go to the Lobby, it was more about film, like the film history and the love of film and diving deep into like reviews and stuff like that. This is going to mainly focus on the people, the person who I interview. And looking back at some of those Let's All Go to the Lobby podcasts, I've noticed that I tend to ramble and kind of take control of the podcast. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I'm going to try and not do that from now on. Although ironically, this is going to be my journey through filmmaking, episode 1. So that's why I don't have a guest for episode 1, because I thought I would kind of give you guys my journey and how I feel about it and how it's changed over the years. Truthfully, I didn't really feel like making a podcast. I have this sort of bad habit with art where I have to be really in the mood to make something in order to make it, and I'm not really in that mood right now, but I just told myself, I'm like, listen, like, if you're not in the mood now, when are you going to be in the mood to make something like this? When are you going to do this podcast that you've been planning? So I just said, screw it. I'm going to make it right now, and I'm going to do episode 1. The thing is, I'm going to definitely forget. That's the one thing I don't like about podcasts is I always forget to mention something. And and afterwards I post it or edit it, and I'm like, damn it, I should have mentioned something. I should have mentioned this thing, A or B or C or whatever I forgot to mention. So anyway, so episode 1 is going to be my journey through filmmaking, and I'm going to try and kind of compartmentalize it all and try and say it and give you guys kind of the bullet points, because that's one thing, like, this is my bread and butter. Like, this is my life. My life is film. You know what I'm saying? My life is filmmaking. So to kind of compartmentalize that in an hour-long podcast is going to be very difficult. I'm going to give you guys like the bullet points, or at least I'm going to try to. One thing I'm probably not going to do for you, and if you're looking for this, you might not want to listen to this podcast, is I'm not really going to give any advice, because I feel like I'm not in the point in my career yet where I can fully give advice. If anything, I'm the one who needs some advice when it comes to breaking into the film industry and everything, because I don't really fully know how to do it yet. And that's coming from someone who has been trying to do this for, 10 to 15 years at this point. More likely like 10, 12 years, but still. It's just been a long journey. But I feel like the thing with advice too, when people ask for advice, people are always searching for that one magical piece of advice that is going to change everything for them, that it goes into their head, through their ears, and then something is unlocked within themselves that gives them motivation, that it's the magic button for anything, that they want to do. It's the magic button for the art form that they're trying to achieve. And that's just not really how it works. In my experience, most advice is just don't give up, and you get the typical fortune cookie cliches. And while those are definitely, they're good to have, I still find that a lot of times even when big filmmakers give, advice, they're speaking in platitudes, and that's why it's so difficult for a lot of people, including me, to take some of their advice seriously. There are some gold nuggets though in some filmmakers' advice. I find Robert Rodriguez is really inspirational with his advice, as well as David F. Sandberg. But a lot of directors really do like to speak in platitudes and just sort of say, oh, this, that, and the other thing, like, don't give up, and all that. But it's like, there's not a lot of directors that teach you really the step-by-steps in how to get to the industry, because I think the way to get into the industry is just so nebulous. Like, it's such a nebulous industry. Everyone enters it. Everyone enters it. It seems like the movie industry seems like it's one of those things where people just wake up one day and then they realize, holy crap, I made it, but they can't figure out how they made it, because I guess there were so many steps and so much stuff that had to go right, or they had to be lucky. or nepotism or anything like that. They just sort of wake up and they're like, holy crap, like I'm a filmmaker now. How did this happen? And anytime they try to relay their story, it's not really, beneficial to the person listening because that's their story. And the thing with the movie industry and maybe even the music industry and stuff like that is people get into it through a myriad of different ways. There's really no one set way to get into it. Whereas like if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, what you have to do. You got to go to medical school. You got to get this. You got to get the doctorate. You got to get your master's, whatever you got to get. For a lawyer, you got to pass the bar exam. And then you know what to do. You got to start your own firm. You got to, go to the hospital, apply for a job. I don't really know how any of that works, but I know that there's a set path to something like being a lawyer or being a doctor. That's why a lot of, parents in a very cliched way want their children to become lawyers or doctors, because it's nothing's ever guaranteed, but there's more of a step-by-step plan into getting into those industries rather than an artistic industry, like music or movies or video games, There's thousands of jobs within the movie industry, though, and for me, even when I'm trying to apply for some of these jobs, it feels like it's really hard. Honestly, I want to streamline this a little bit, this conversation, and talk about my journey through filmmaking, because that's what this podcast is about. My perspective overall on my journey, at least at this very moment, is a little pessimistic. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I feel like the last couple years have really beaten me down when it comes to short films and stuff like that, and how I feel about my passion to becoming a filmmaker. Like, I want to be a filmmaker. I was much more optimistic when I started making short films back in like high school. Like, I've made like a lot of like crappy short films, but my first real short film, like the first real short film that I ever made, in my opinion, was Colors. Like I said, I had some 1 to 2 minute sketches that I made and stuff like that, and I made a couple little things before that, but Colors was my first narrative-driven short film that I ever completed. And when you look back at it now, I mean, that short film's almost 10 years old now. It is dated, but there's a passion behind the camera that I feel like I can see because I was there, because I was the one making the film. I had a lot more passion back in those days making short films, and I didn't really look around and compare myself to anybody back in those days because I felt like everyone was sort of on the same level. When you're in high school, like, no one is going to be, you might get the Xavier Dolan here and there, but most likely when you're in high school, and if your high school class, if your high school has like a film class, mine did, if yours does, everyone in that room is on the same level as you. I actually had film and AP film in my high school, which is very lucky because art classes tend to be the first thing cut. And I took those classes, and everyone around me was basically at the same level, with the same level of passion and stuff like that. And when I made Colors, I was in a much more positive headspace, and then I made Sorry, and then I made Colors 2, and I felt like a progression happened. And then afterwards, I went to film school. After I graduated high school, I went to Florida. I went to a film school called Full Sail University. And looking back on it now, being that I am 6 years past graduating from Full Sail, I get kind of angry when I think about Full Sail. I really wish I never went to film school because I feel like film school stunted my creativity, because going to college is just a logistical process altogether. It's just a logistical process where you need to go to film school, you need to apply for loans, and it's such a left-brain thing going to college that when you go to a right-brain school, when you want to learn these right-brained traits, it doesn't mesh well, at least not with Full Sail. Full Sail, I have a lot of opinions on Full Sail. I don't want to dive deep into them, but I'll just give you my overall thought. I think Full Sail is a scam, almost. It's a for-profit college that basically teaches you at an accelerated rate to just kind of dump all this useless information on you. And look, I've talked to other people. Apparently, Full Sail has a very good recording and music program. I went to their film program. I've heard very mixed things about their film program. I've had fellow classmates of mine who I do love everyone in the class. We all became like really close friends because we never changed classes. It was the same class throughout, both years. I remember or I'm sorry, I've talked to people from that class who say that, oh yeah, Full Sail taught me everything I know. But I guess everything or everyone has a different experience when it comes to Full Sail. For me, I found myself contemplating why I was there a lot. And there was a lot of classes where I look back on in retrospect and I'm just like, why did we take that? What is the purpose of digital literacy, psychology of play? Like, if anything, Full Sail is a grip school. We had 4 lighting classes, but only 1 directing class. And that directing class was only a month long. A month-long directing class is just insane to me. Excuse me one second, I got a cough. So it's just Full Sail didn't really teach me anything. And that's why I feel like Full Sail really is one of the big reasons, not the only reason. You know, I had some personal stuff that I had to go through. As soon as I graduated college, my dad got sick. Literally the week I graduated, my dad got sick, and then I had to move back to Michigan from Florida basically right away to take care of him. But what I think the whole significance of Full Sail, but not just Full Sail, because like I said, I had other personal things, but mostly I would say about like 60 to 70% of why I believe where I'm at right now is almost because I went to college. In college, it was just a 2-year stunt of just boom, like your creativity's gone, you know? At least that's how I feel about it. And now I'm 5 years or 6 years past college now, and I feel like I should be somewhere more ahead. You know, I look around and I see my classmates like having these careers in the film industry. Like, I've only worked on a real film set maybe 2 or 3 times ever. You know, I'm in Detroit, so there's not a lot of films that come here, but when there are, I try to get on the sets. But I look at my fellow classmates and they have careers. They don't have jobs. They have careers in this industry already. You know, they're on film sets constantly, or they're on like these sound stages in freaking Atlanta or LA, and I can't help but look around sometimes and feel like I'm behind, you know? And I feel like I'm behind too because I'm still sitting here making films the way I did back in high school, where it's just me and group of my friends, you know, just with a DSLR camera filming stuff. Only now it's 10 times harder because everyone has full-time jobs and families, and some of my friends are married, and it's just a lot harder. And I almost feel like I'm that guy who's still holding on to this pipe dream, making short films with his DSLR, you know? And like I said, that can change later on where I get more optimistic, but this is where I am right now. I just feel like I'm really behind. You know, I feel like I'm very behind, and it's defeating sometimes. I get really, really bummed, you know, because I still feel like I am doing everything still. I'm the cinematographer, the writer, I'm the actor sometimes. And yeah, I get friends to help out, but a lot of times they're not as dedicated as me because they're just doing it as a favor. A lot of them don't really want to be in the film industry. They're just doing it as a favor. Some of them want to be in the film industry, but they got full-time jobs. And I have absolutely no disrespect against my friends. I got nothing against them because I totally get it, you know? And there's a lot of trepidation when it comes to hiring people for me because it's a lot. And to pour like $5,000 to $10,000 of my own money into this big short film, knowing that I'm not going to get any of that back pretty much, is just a very hard thing for me to do. It's hard for anyone to do that. You know, it's like, that's just, it's too difficult for me to take that chunk out of my bank account and be like, I'm going to spend all this, basically burn it on this short film, knowing I'm not going to make anything out of it. That's difficult. You know, that's very hard to do that. And for me, that's kind of where I'm at, where I feel a little stuck right now. And I know that I got to trust in God's timing. I'm a religious person, if you don't know. So I got to trust in God's timing and just, you know, pray about it. And just all things happen in God's time. And I know that. I truly do. I know that, and I try to believe that. I really do. I mean, I do believe it, but it's just, I can't help sometimes but feel a little bummed when it feels like I'm so behind everyone else, You know, I mean, I'm 27 now, and I don't want to compare myself to the greats. But, you know, I don't want to be like, yeah, but Orson Welles was 23 when he made Citizen Kane, and Steven Spielberg was 27 when he made Jaws, which is my age right now, and that was his second feature film, or third feature film, technically. It was his second theatrical film. But then you got other directors too, like Tim Miller, who didn't get to make his first feature film until he was 50. But the thing with that is Tim Miller was already in the industry with Blur Studios and stuff like that. And people, I feel like if people are going to be in this industry, and I'm not trying to demotivate anyone listening to this, but I almost feel like if people are really trying to get into the film industry, I feel like they have to at least be in it somewhat by their late 20s, right? That's with any career, I feel like. I mean, if you want to be a lawyer and you're not at least a paralegal at like some firm or something like that by 27, you know, I feel like you'd be behind on that, but I don't know. I could be wrong, you know. But I just feel like I'm not even close to breaking into the industry. That's what it feels like to me. And it's just it sucks, you know. I don't know what to do. Because one thing is that film school never taught me what to do, you know. They didn't really tell you how to contact an agent and to get an agent, to get a literary agent or a directing agent, how to get noticed, you know, what to do, how to make a pitch deck. Like, they didn't teach you this stuff. And if they did, it was just very minimal stuff. And it's just, and now I'm paying this school that I regret going to, you know, because I'm in debt now. Because now I have all this useless information in my head. It's what it feels like. You know, and that sucks to say, but that's kind of where I feel like I'm at right now. You know, I feel like I'm just behind and it sucks. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, woe is me. Oh, feel bad for me. I'm not trying to do that at all. But I can't help but feel that way, you know, almost every time. And I also feel like, too, even though this happens years ago, it takes a long time for me to make a short film because, like I said, I do most of everything myself. But when I do get some people on board and stuff, it's fun. But I've had 3 or 4 films, big films, not work out. You know, Bleeding Out is a film that I tried to make and that never worked out. Fragments is a film that was made, and I am proud of Fragments. I'm actually very proud of Fragments and what that meant to me personally, but it wasn't the film I wanted to make. But overall, I do like Fragments. I'm very proud of that short film. But then there are other films. Grave, the first attempt of making that you know, that didn't work. We eventually never made that. And that was actually a bigger production because we had, like, I was working at a job that had, like, big production, professional cameras and professional equipment. And that film would have turned out great. But unfortunately, something supernatural happened and we lost everything, all the footage, every single piece of footage that was on different cards just vanished. We don't know why. We don't know what happened. It was really bad. But I've cried over spilled milk enough about Grave, the first attempt at Grave. And then we tried to do Red Snow. Red Snow never made it, and then we tried to do a prequel to Red Snow called Den of Robbers. That one was completed until the hard drive crashed and I lost everything. That was another bigger production that ended up not happening. And then we tried to redo Grave, and it ended up not happening again, and that happened in 2020 when the second Grave didn't work out, which is a super bummer. You know, and like I said, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's like, it's hard for me to dish out cash when I know I'm not going to make anything in return, especially when sometimes it doesn't even work out. Like with Grave, I spent a good chunk of money. I really don't know if I should name numbers. I'm not going to do that. But, you know, I lost it all and I have nothing to show for it. I mean, you could argue that I have addendum to show for it, but I didn't really use anything that I spent on Grave in addendum. So I don't necessarily think that I have anything to show for it, but that's my point. Is like, it's one thing to spend all your money on a short film, complete that short film, and then not get anything in return from it. But it's a completely different thing. Even though, well, it's basically like this the different side of the same coin of like making a film, having that film be canceled after spending all this money on it, and then still not making anything in return. And both suck, both suck, honestly. Obviously, not having anything to show for it would suck more, but sometimes I feel like they both suck the same, because it's like, I'm not making anything in return, so why am I pouring my heart and soul into this? And the answer to that question would be passion, and it feels like I can't do anything else. And I don't say that as in like I feel trapped in it, but I genuinely feel like I don't have the passion to do anything else. I don't have the passion for music that I do for films. I don't have the passion for painting as I do for films. I have other interests like comic books and astrology, or no. Sorry. Astronomy. Not astrology. Not astrology. I do not have, screw astrology. I do not have an interest in astrology. Astronomy. I got an interest in astronomy. I got an interest in comic books, in art in general, photography. I have somewhat of an interest, but none of those fields yield the same amount of passion for me when it comes to film. I feel like I have to make a film. Like I feel like I have to do it. Like it's a part of me. It's like there's something in my chest and my brain and my heart and whatever, as cheesy as it sounds, telling me like I have to do it. I can't not do film. Even when I do other artistic projects, I don't feel the same passion. I don't feel the same amount of commitment to that project. And it kind of sucks sometimes. But it's like I feel like I have to do this, but I sometimes lately I've just been feeling like do I really want to do this? There was a moment a couple months ago where I really, really was on the brink of giving film up, because now I feel like I'm alone more than ever when it comes to my art form, when it comes to filmmaking. None of my friends really want to help out. And like I said, nothing against them at all. I love all my friends, but they got jobs, they got lives, Some of my friends are married. It's difficult. It's difficult. And I totally get where they're coming from, too, because sometimes I have these moments where I'm just like, I put my head in my hands and I'm like, I'm 27 years old. Right now, it's literally happening right now. I'm making this short trailer called The Mad Hillbillies of Massapequa, which is like this comedic horror film I'm making, this horror trailer I'm making. And I'm like dressing up as like this hillbilly. And I'm 27 years old, and I can't help but put my head in my hand sometimes and be like, I am a 27-year-old man putting makeup on my face and fake blood and like on clothes and like buying these cheap Halloween masks to wear and kind of be goofy on camera. I can't help sometimes but feel like, oh my God, like I'm too old for this shit. Like it feels weird, and some of my friends might feel the same way. I don't know if they do, but I totally would get that if they did, because I feel that way sometimes, and I'm the one making it, So it's like when I made Red Snow, I had one of those moments. I made Red Snow, or sorry, the prequel film, Den of Robbers. That was about that might have been like 3 or 4 years ago now. Holy crap. Maybe 5 years ago even. I don't even know. The point is, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I had to play this bandit, like this outlaw, who appropriated Native American culture. Like that was, 'cause he was a villain, and he was like this villain who had this he was racist against Native Americans, and he like appropriated their culture and like was mocking it. He was a villain, guys. Please don't cancel me. He was a villain. He was a bad guy. And I played that character, and I was putting like makeup on my face and like feathers in my hair, and I'm just like, I thought to myself, I'm like, I'm a 27-year-old man doing this, man, playing this like villain in like this script that I wrote, and I'm like, my gosh, I'm a 27-year-old man putting feathers in my hair and like having my mom help me put like makeup on my face, and I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? So I have those moments too, so I get it. I don't want to speak for my friends, because I can't do that. I don't know how they feel, but the great thing about this podcast is I'm going to ask them how they feel, because I'm going to be interviewing a lot of them. I'm going to be interviewing, a lot of my friends for this podcast and asking them about their filmmaking journey. Even ones who aren't like huge into film, but they've helped me film stuff, and stuff like that. So, yeah. But basically, going back to the career timeline of me, and it's hard for me to even call it a career. I understand that I'm hard on myself too, and I try to not be. The short films I made in college were pretty terrible. I can't necessarily remember a lot what I made in college. The worst film I ever made was in college. The worst short film I ever made was in college. It was called Nightlight, and I think you can watch it still on my Nico Nico 9 channel. It's pretty bad, and most of my college films were pretty bad. I did this film called Colors 3 in college. I tried to make to wrap up the Colors trilogy, and it just ended up being a trailer because when you go to Full Sail, you have 12 to 15-hour days, 6 days a week. Or I'm sorry, it's like 8 to 12-hour days, 6 days a week when you go to Full Sail. And I remember I was doing the visual effects to Colors 3, and I was just like crying almost. I was like, I don't think I can do this. I just have to make a trailer because the first Colors had, I think, 20 visual effects shots with the color and everything. The second Colors had 22 visual effects shots. I was on 30 visual effects shots in Colors 3, and I wasn't even halfway done. I wasn't even a third of the way done. And I was like, okay, with my school schedule and everything, I cannot post this. So that's why Colors 3 is just a trailer. It's interesting, though, because I'm trying to think what other films I made during college. During college, I also focused on... Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? What was I thinking? I said the worst film I ever made was Nightlight. I'm sorry. Let's talk about Stuck. Stuck was a Full Sail production. That I already made a video about that on my Nico Nico 9 channel for my 500 subscriber special. So if you wanted to check that out, please do, because it's pretty cringy and hilarious. Man, I got to take a drink, bro. My throat is killing me. So, woo. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so the films I made in college were not great. After college, I had a lot of short films not work out. After college was the basically 2 to 3 to maybe even 4 year span of just canceled short films. And that really, put a damper on things. Bleeding Out was canceled. Den of Robbers didn't work out. What was it? Den of Robbers didn't work out. Red Snow didn't work out. Fragments turned out pretty well, but it wasn't what I expected. And then, Grave didn't work out, and then Grave didn't work out again. But that was a little later. That's where I am more now. The first attempt of Grave was kind of in that era of just canceled films, and I was just so bummed. And if you go to my Nico channel, youtube.com/NicosFilms, you'll see that there are not many short films on there because I feel like they just take so long to do, and and there's like huge spans between some of the numbers. Like one scroll down and you're at 6 years ago when it comes to some of my films, and it's crazy. I need to really do the Sam Raimi model and just make a movie every week. You see, that's another piece of advice that I think is good. Make a movie every week, but it's hard. It's hard because I'm just posting my films to YouTube. And during that span of like 3 or 4 years of having all my projects be canceled, it was very defeating. And I still feel like I feel the residual effects of that today, because I feel like I can't advance my skill set. I can't advance my skill set until I make a film. And the thing about film is that the progress is not always linear. Sometimes you make something that's worse than the thing you made before. Don't Hang Off to Me is exceptionally worse than like vlog number 1, for example. And that's kind of defeating too, when you kind of backtrack on your progress. But I feel like I would be okay with this notion of progress and advancing my skill set if I made more short films. But the problem is a lot of my short films are either too ambitious or, even if they're not too ambitious, I have a hard time finding actors or getting cinematographers and doing and finding people, or finding the funds and finding people to help me with it. And I'm not saying like, oh, no one helps me make films, oh, I'm bitter about it and stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying that at all. Like, I just don't know what to do, because people's skill set also have to be to a certain standard. That just goes with anything. If you're doing a project for like school, for example, and you have a certain idea of what this project should be, you want your classmates to be on the same page as you. There's a certain level of effort and stuff that you want people to have into a project. And there's a certain level of, how do I explain it? There's like a certain level of like skill set that you want someone to be on your short film. And sometimes those people are very hard to find. It's actually hard to find someone who's very good at their craft, believe it or not. Or maybe it's a lot easier and I just don't know how to find them. I mean, I don't know. It's difficult for me. Or at least I found a couple, but then they'd give me their price and like, oh yeah, I'll be the cinematographer of your film for like $10,000, and I'm like, what? Like, that wasn't the exact number or anything like that. But I've talked to people who have given me numbers sometimes. I'm just like, dang, like I can't afford that, But that's kind of the skill set I want. But maybe I'm asking too much. I don't know. I tend to doubt myself a lot when it comes to stuff like this, But now we're but also in that period, or actually no, after that period of having all these short films be canceled, I started focusing on the stuff I could do, which is YouTube. I have a friend who's a very successful YouTuber, and I never wanted to be a YouTuber. Back in the day, I was very adamant, like, I do not want to be a YouTuber. I don't want to make money through YouTube. I don't want to be one of those guys, because YouTube as a platform, or working on YouTube as a platform, seems unappealing to me. But because of all the problems that even some of my friends express and stuff like that. But I have a friend who is a very successful YouTuber who I'm going to be interviewing in the next episode, actually. And he kind of inspired me a little bit to be like, make what you want to make and just like make what you can and like make something you're passionate about and just put it on YouTube. And that was kind of the era where I was really trying to do something on YouTube. I kind of had a change of heart and I was like, all right, you know what? Maybe being a YouTuber isn't the worst thing, because then if I do get successful at it, I could use that to be, I could use that to maybe fund some of my short films and stuff like that, or something like that. Or I could gain new skills from doing YouTube for a certain amount of time that I could then implement into my short films. That's what I was kind of trying to do with that, and I still do it, but I felt like I've sort of lost the passion a little bit for my YouTube stuff. I'm just going to be 100% real with you. I've lost the passion for some of my YouTube stuff, and it's just difficult to maintain a lot. And when I don't have a passion to do something, because the thing about YouTube is you have to just pump out content. It's just pumping content out. And I've gained a decent following on YouTube. I've gained around 700 subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. That's awesome, But again, it's like, it's hard. It's so hard to pour my heart and soul into something and only to get nothing in return. It's defeating. And if you have the passion for it, I don't mind doing it. But a lot of times with YouTube, not all the time, but a lot of times with my YouTube videos, I don't carry the same amount of passion for them as I do, say, my short films. Whereas like my short films, I have a passion to get that done. Whereas like with like the YouTube stuff, I feel like it's an obligation to get that done. Like, oh, the new trailer for Eternals or Shang-Chi or Spider-Man came out. I have to do a video about that. I just watched Shang-Chi and I'm like, oh, crap, now I got to do a review on it. But I didn't really want to do a review on it. I just wasn't. I've been a little discontented, if that's a word. I've been a little what's the word? I've been a little just I don't really like movie reviews and like criticizing movies anymore as much. I'm much more optimistic when it comes to viewing a film and critiquing a film. I like critiquing a film with constructive criticism and critiquing something out of love and not criticizing something out of malice. That's kind of what where my heart is at now. But the thing is like I kind of just, it's hard for me to get up out of bed in the morning and be like, all right, I have to set everything up because I got to do a review for Shang-Chi. You know, it's difficult for me. And I've been debating what I want to do with my YouTube stuff and like my YouTube career. Like, do I want to pursue YouTube? Like, because I can drop everything. Like, should I just drop everything and just go full blast, try to do YouTube? Or should I like take a step away from YouTube and try to go full blast in my short film route and try to put all this time and effort into short films? That way I could maybe get noticed and then, you know, and then get my big break. You know, that's what everyone's looking for. That's what we're all looking for, is just our big break. And it's difficult. I don't know what to do. You know, I don't want to not utilize my YouTube stuff because that's my biggest audience. But at the same time, I don't know. You know, I don't have the passion to do it. When I started it, I had a passion for it. I was making 2 videos a week and I was going for it. You know, I really had a passion for it. But after a while, I got less and less passionate about my YouTube channel, Nico 9, you know. And, for those who don't know, by the way, I probably should have mentioned this off the top. Like, my Nico 9 stuff is like my YouTube stuff where I do movie reviews, comic book reviews, movie and trailer reactions, vlogs and cons and stuff like that. That's separate from my short film stuff. I got 2 different YouTube channels for each thing. And yeah, it's just that's what I'm talking about when I say my YouTube stuff. Because my short films are also on YouTube, but that's a different sort of thing, you know. How long have I been talking for? I got a timer now because I only want these things to be like an hour long. Holy crap, only 37 minutes? Wow. Okay. All right, so where am I at now is the thing. Where am I at now? Honestly, I'm not trying to get pity, and I'm not trying to elicit pity or anything like that, but I'm just not in a great spot right now when it comes to my films. I have a lot of them planned, but it's just hard to get motivated to do them, you know? It's just really, really difficult for me to see a future where I'm in the industry, and I hate saying that. I really hate saying that. It almost brings me to tears saying that. But when I look into my future, it's very hard for me to picture myself at the level I wish I was at or I want to be at. I used to be bright-eyed, and I used to run around high school and be like, "Oh, I'm going to be the next Spielberg," you know? But it's like I don't want to be that guy either who gives up on his dreams, because the only guarantee that it's never going to happen, the only way to guarantee that your dreams will never come true is if you give up. And I don't want to give up. I don't want to be that guy who gave up on his dream and be like, you know what, I'm just going to settle down and live in my hometown for the rest of my life and not aspire to do something greater, you know? And it sucks, you know, because I want to see myself in the future, and it could happen. I'm still keeping that spark of hope and passion alive, you know? I'm still trying. I'm trying so hard, but man, it's just exhausting sometimes trying to keep that hope when it's just hard to see sometimes, you know? And I know that I know that it's a very selfish thing too. You know, like I said, I'm religious, and the things that I want are selfish things. And I hate saying it, but it's like, you know, my religion teaches me that God is enough. God is enough. No matter what happens to you in life, God is enough. As long as you have God, you don't need anything else. And that's true. It's 100% true. And it's like, I almost feel like God is leading me down a direction to be like, to test me and be like, give up on your dreams because all you need is me. And I'm not trying to turn this into a religious discussion by any means, but I feel that way sometimes. You know, I was feeling this way, and then I went to a sermon that I almost didn't go to. But then I went, and they were talking about this, where there was a pastor on stage, and he said he wanted to be a rock star. He wanted to be a rock star. And when he got older, he almost realized, like, that's probably never going to happen. And he kind of prayed to God and said, like, he said, like, why isn't this happening for me? And then God told him, through prayer, basically, like, am I enough for you? Like, would I be enough if you didn't achieve your dream? And the pastor honestly answered, and he said no at the time. He said, I want more. I want recognition. I want to provide for my family and everything, which is not bad or anything like that. I'm paraphrasing this sermon, by the way. I'm totally butchering it. You probably should stop listening to me. But, like, basically, it's like, sometimes, like Aunt May said in Spider-Man 2, sometimes we have to be steady and give up the things we want the most, including our dreams. And that's a very harsh reality of life, But sometimes I feel like God's testing me and putting me down that path. I've been busting my ass at this dream for so long. It's like, it's almost like he's testing me, like, to give it up, And I talked to the pastor afterwards, and he's like, listen, don't give it up if the thing that's telling you to give up is self-doubt. And he told me that. He said, if you think God is leading you down a path, follow that path, but don't give up simply because of self-doubt. And it's hard for me to discern it sometimes, where I'm like, is this the path I belong in, not being a filmmaker and not achieving my dreams? Maybe God has something better in store for me? Or is it just self-doubt, to where I'm like, I'm so behind everyone else? And I just have a doubt. I have this giant doubt now about my future in this film industry. I'm trying so hard, but it's heartbreaking sometimes, Because a lot of times, and I know this might sound cliche or melodramatic, I should rather say, or hyperbolic, whatever you want to say, but sometimes I feel like film is all I really have. I don't really have any passion anywhere else besides maybe like dog rescue. I've been thinking about maybe quitting film and just focusing on dog rescue. I don't know. And every time I think about it, I get super anxious and my anxiety flares up like crazy, Genuinely. I don't really know what to do. So now I feel like I'm at a crossroads. That's where I'm at now. I feel like I'm at a crossroads with my career. I have all these short films planned, but I don't know if I want to go forward with them because A, I don't have a lot of motivation. B, I don't know what I want to do with my life. C, I'm terrified. I'm scared to even consider the possibility of giving up on my dreams. That frightens me. That scares the absolute crap out of me. But, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and it's, I don't know. There's nothing else that I have a huge passion for. I got a passion for God, but I don't know how I'd make a career out of it, Same thing with astronomy. Like, I can't become an astronomer, at 27. That's another job where you need a degree in astronomy, And it's like, I'm just a hobbyist astronomer, I can tell you, like, some cool factoids about Neptune, but I can't, like, be an astronomer. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Fun fact, the winds on Neptune are so fast that they break the sound barrier constantly because Neptune is actually the windiest planet. A lot of people think it's Jupiter, but it's not. It is Neptune. Gosh, I hope that fact is right. Yeah. So hopefully you guys can hear this. I've been kind of moving the mic around. This mic is, I feel like this mic has to be like pressed up against your lips, like fully, like this. But I'm inhaling the dust from the fuzz, the dead cat. That's what they're called. They're called dead cats when you're talking to a microphone. I feel like I'm inhaling the fuzz from the dead cat, so I'm putting my face away from it. But when I do that, I feel like you can't hear me that well when I'm over here. But I have to be like right here. But the problem is I move forward and back a lot, so I hope the levels aren't changing too much. I'm gonna try and keep it right at my face and see what happens. But yeah. So right now, that's kind of where I'm at with my filmmaking journey. About 3 or 4 years ago now, I made Fragments, which was a short film that was good, and I am proud of it, but it was very experimental. And then I started a thing called the Shadow Man trilogy, which is vlog number 1, Don't Hang Off, and Addendum. And I'm proud that I was able to do that, to do those 3 films. I'm very proud of vlog number 1. I think vlog number 1 is probably my favorite short film I've ever made. Don't Hang Off was a bit of a step back. It was a bit of a step backwards. But then Addendum I also really liked. I actually have a lot of people who went up to me and told me they loved Addendum. People who have never complimented my short film. Like I have a friend who has never complimented one of my short films, like ever. And he even texted me and was like, bro, Addendum was sick. So that made me feel good. And then I combined them all into this anthology film called The Shadow Man Compendium. That was a 3-year project that actually it was before that because I had like fragments of ideas before 2018. So this was a long time in the making. So I'm glad I got that done. Or I'm sorry, now I finished recently a project called I Dreamt That I Kissed You Last Night, which was a series of experimental short films that all relate to dreams in some way. And a lot of it was shot on an iPhone. Not all of it, but most of it was. And that was just kind of a way to break down some of the barriers of my burnout, my creative burnout. Try and make, and a lot of it too was just a practical reason. It's like, if the only thing I have is my iPhone or like a camera and maybe a subject or two, what can I make out of it? So it was kind of a creative challenge as well to try and, yield some creative images out of a iPhone. So I thought that was pretty cool. Pretty cool project. Nothing that was insanely creatively fulfilling, but it was something I, tried to do. And I finished it, and it was okay. Also, I mean, between you and me, it was sort of another kind of reason to dump some of these short films that I had. Like I used to make I just would film random stuff, and I never released it, but I was just taking up space on my computer, so I'm like, might as well release it, like the short of the sky, where it was literally just 3 minutes of the sky. Like I just thought the sky looked pretty that day, and I wanted to film it, so I filmed it, with the clouds and everything. So there's really no backstory to that one. But, some of them were made specifically for that series, but some of them too I had on the back burner, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to slap a title card on that and then post it and pretend it's part of the series. Now I want to do something more. It's weird because it's like I feel like I want to do something more commercial, something more easily digestible, but that's very difficult. I feel like the reason I'm sort of in this experimental realm right now is because it's easy. It's easy. It's easier to be experimental than it is to do something that's more structured. Right now I have 3, well, technically it's 5 projects that I'm working on right now. I say it's technically 5, but it's really 3 because one project is called Night at the Drive-In, where I'm making a series of 3 fake trailers for old 1980s slasher movies. So it's nothing like too deep. It's kind of comedic. But those are only like 1 to 2 minute kind of trailers that I'm trying to make. Although those have posed quite a challenge in some regard to certain things. But other than that, I have this film called Choices, which I'm not going to spoil, because there's something really cool that I'm doing with Choices that has been done before, but I don't know has been done for a while. That's all I'll say about that one. I'm excited about that one. And then I got another short film called Faith, which is my first religious inspired movie. It's going to be my first faith-inspired, faith-driven movie. I say movie, but it's more of a short film. But yeah. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I can't believe it's already almost been a year since Grave ended. And then we shot Addendum. We shot Addendum in November of 2020. November is right around the corner. Dang, time flies way too fast, man. It gets my anxiety like pumping, dude. I'm like super anxious right now, but I try. How long has this been going for? All right, 51 minutes so far. I think we're pretty good to end right here. But all right, I'll just give like a small conclusion. In conclusion, everyone's journey is different. That's kind of what this whole podcast is about people's different journeys through the industry. I'm not trying to deter anyone from the industry at all, I'm not trying to tell anyone to give up on your dreams. This is just where I'm at. This is just where I'm at right now. And I'm I feel like a very crossroad kind of moment in my life when it comes to this stuff. And I don't want I don't want anyone to be deterred from what I'm saying. Yeah. So overall, that's kind of my journey right now, and the journey's never ending. This journey is it's gonna be forever, pretty much. Even let's say I do become the next Spielberg, which whatever, it might not happen, but I'm trying to keep hope alive. Let's say I am the next Spielberg. The journey's still going to be there, no matter what. There's always going to be something that changes the status quo, and I'm going to be like, holy crap, what is going on with my filmmaking journey right now? So, yeah. Point is, though, thank you guys for listening to the first ever episode of the Kitchen Sink podcast. Yeah. I don't know how to end these things, man. Thank you guys for listening. That's going to be it. I guarantee you, as soon as I press the off button on my recorder, as soon as it happens, maybe give me a 60-second buffer, I'm going to think of something that I forgot to mention. It's going to happen, but it's going to be too late at that point. So, all right, guys. Also, here's something I forgot to mention. I'm also writing scripts and trying to find agents to do that. See, I didn't even tackle like the agent thing. Oh, man. Anyway, all right, guys, this is going to be it. Stay tuned for the next episode where my guest will be David Cage of Uncaged Games. He's been a good friend of mine for years, ever since childhood, so he's going to talk about his journey through filmmaking. He's not necessarily a filmmaker, but he is a content creator, which is kind of a subgenre of a filmmaker, in my opinion. So, yeah, we're going to talk about more about that next month. So, yeah, guys, see you guys later. Thank you all for listening, and bye-bye.